All right, we're back, and we got our NFL segment here now on the Talk with AVC. Now, obviously, usually the NFL segment is third on my list, but I'm going to explain this why in a second. So, with college football now over, there's not a lot of, unlike in other sports with college football, there's not a ton really to talk about in the off season for college football. I mean, I don't really want to go through recruiting classes. That's just not what I do. And quite frankly, I don't think people are that interested in that, at least at this point. So I'm going to just dedicate this segment to all things football as of right now. Obviously with the Super Bowl being over, congrats to the Chiefs. Obviously with the Super Bowl being over, I'm going to use this segment to just talk about all things football. So it could be college, it could be NFL, could be XFL, which had an opening weekend this weekend. And I'm going to actually briefly talk about the XFL. So when the XFL was announced, me being the crazy sports fan I am, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, cool. This will be a cool thing to watch in between football and before baseball starts. So people started getting daunting flashbacks to the recently foreclosed AAF. A couple things to talk about where the XFL is different than the AAF. One, they have reliable financing. That was the main problem with the AAF. I don't even remember who they originally had, but some guy who defaulted on the loan. Then they got Tom Dundon. Then Dundon, who's the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, shut down the league. The XFL obviously is owned by one Vince McMahon, the chairman of the WWE. So let's just say they have the reliable financing to at least finish a season. People forget that even when the XFL was an abomination of football years ago, they at least finished the season. So this, at least you can rely on the XFL here, I think, to at least finish the season. In terms of fan interest, well, they drew more fans in their opening weekend, in their opening day, than the AAF drew their entire existence. That was a crazy stat, but so I was a little bit skeptical when they put some of these teams in the big cities. For me, if I was making an expansion league, I probably would have put teams in places like probably where the AAF did, like San Antonio, Salt Lake City, somewhere in the Midwest, Oregon, places like that, places where there wasn't already an NFL team. But I guess I missed the point that this isn't supposed to compete with the NFL. This is supposed to be its own thing in like a spring league. So, you got these big city teams like New York, Washington, Tampa Bay, Dallas, LA, and Houston. And, you got all these fan bases who want to see football, and now they're getting it. And the DC Defenders are already the most popular football team in Washington because the Redskins are a mess. So, impressions from opening weekend. The other thing I like about the XFL is it's different enough from the NFL that it's visibly noticeable. Some of the rule changes, it plays a little bit more like college football, but the reduced play clock from 40 seconds to 25 seconds, I'm a big fan of that because I think it keeps the game moving, which I really like. The game feels like it goes faster. It also makes it harder for teams to just run out the clock for like 8 minutes straight. And when you get guys like this who are mostly like former NFL backups or practice squad guys or young guys from college who had to deal with like an injury or something like that, it's always interesting to watch these guys because everybody's hungry. Everybody wants to be there. You don't really see any laziness. Everybody wants to show what they got. And it leads to some very entertaining football. I was very entertained this weekend. I watched the first two games on Saturday between DC and I've already forgotten who they were playing. Where the Defenders won against the Seattle Dragons, and I also saw Houston and LA play. And the other main game I watched was the New York Guardians and Tampa Bay. Some very different games. The first two were very close. DC was close until the end when defenders kind of pulled away. But the Guardian game was never really close. The Guardians beat up on the Vipers. And, it was cool because they're playing in MetLife, which, again, was another thing I was surprised about. A couple of teams play in soccer stadiums. Some of them, one plays, the Dallas team plays in the Texas Rangers baseball stadium. But then the Dragons and the Guardians play in their NFL stadiums. So, like, the Seattle team plays in CenturyLink Field and the New York team plays in MetLife. And so this would be a cool thing for Giants fans. If you don't remember the name of your former offensive coordinator when you guys won the Super Bowl, I feel bad for you. But Kevin Gilbride, former Giants offensive coordinator for, I think, about like 10 years, was there for the last two Super Bowl wins. Kind of forced out when Coughlin was forced out. Maybe a little bit before that, kind of. But he is the head coach of the New York Guardians team. And that was another good thing the XFL's done is they've recruited a lot of experienced coaching, which I think is really good. So it was nice to see him get a win in MetLife. That was kind of cool for his sake. And you got some recognizable names in this league. Yeah, again, on DC, you got Cardell Jones, the former Ohio State QB who won a national title. You got on the Guardians, former Raiders quarterback Matt McGloin. Longtime Steelers backup Landry Jones is on Dallas. You got some recognizable names here. You got some recognizable running backs. But obviously, I think there'll be drops in interest as the weeks go on a little bit, unless it keeps pace is really good, especially next week compared to this week, just because it was brand new. But I like the direction they're going, and I'm hopeful they'll at least finish the season. I also like the media interaction where we're listening to the quarterbacks the whole time, where they're interviewing people directly after plays. We can hear the play call. It's kind of cool. We can hear the replay official in the booth. It's kind of cool. So that being said, that's the whole XFL thing. Let's quickly, let's talk about some NFL stuff. So obviously the biggest story this offseason is about a lot of the quarterbacks. Tom Brady, who I think trolled all of us with that Hulu commercial. That was pretty funny. I don't give Brady a lot of credit for a lot of things, but that I found really funny. So, everybody's kind of talking about whether won't he leave New England. I just don't see it happening. I really don't. I think they're going to tease this as much as possible, and I think he's going to resign for like $40 million or something. Because at the end of the day, I just don't see him leaving. I don't. So if I have to play advocate and say he does leave, where does he go? I think the best fit for him, first off, let's kill the San Francisco 49ers rumor right now. No. I don't know why there's so much hate on Jimmy Garoppolo. I've previously defended him on this show. He's not Patrick Mahomes, but he doesn't have to be. Tom Brady was never Patrick Mahomes, except for maybe one season where he had Randy Moss and Wes Welker on the same team. So, with Jimmy Garoppolo, he played a solid season. This was his first full season. He still has less starts than Baker Mayfield. So, let's everybody relax a little bit. The whole trade Jimmy G, sign Tom Brady thing. It's ridiculous. Let's be honest. That's ludicrous. So, let's kill that. All right. Sadly, I think Brady's best fit is a team he definitely won't go to, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. Main reason being, whoever goes there, you're riding the Peyton Manning legacy. I don't think Colts fans would be a huge fan of Tom Brady coming in. I think he'd be a perfect fit. Young O-line, a lot of cap room. You got some good tight ends. It'd be a good fit for him, and you'd probably end up playing the Patriots at some point, but I don't see it. Chargers are probably the most likely scenario, which I find odd for a variety of reasons, just because I would never want to go to play under Dean Spanos, but, he immediately makes them relevant just because he's Tom Brady. As far as the Vegas thing goes, I don't think that's a good fit. Um, I think Brady would rather be a place where he has a less hands-on coach, aka not John Gruden. I could just see a lot of issues with them, though. I think Chucky would love having a veteran QB like Brady. I just don't think Brady and Chucky would mesh well. I don't think Brady would like playing with Gruden. So then the last fit, which people have talked about, is Dallas. This one interests me. You know, this would end up being, you trade Dak Prescott after you franchise tag him, and then you sign Tom Brady for like 2 years. I could see it. I just something I could see Jerry Jones doing. And from Brady's standpoint, I think this is the only other place other than like LA or Vegas that would make him and his wife happy to move to outside of Boston. And I think it'd be first off, the Cowboys would instantly once again become even more most hated team in America. But it would be interesting, and if they kept Cooper, if they paid 40 mil ish for Brady over 2 years, it's a lot cheaper than having to pay Dak like 160 million. And if they just think they need to win the Super Bowl right now, that could be what they want to do. And you know what? That'll be interesting. So speaking of veteran quarterbacks, you got the Saints. Drew Brees is contemplating retirement with his contract up. Sources say it's more likely than not he retires. And the Saints aren't willing to pay like Jacoby Brissett money for Teddy Bridgewater. So they're going to lose Bridgewater. So Saint fans, I guess you got your wish. It looks like Taysom Hill is going to be the plan as the future quarterback for the Saints. I don't buy it. I don't. And this is not me being a biased Falcon fan. I just don't buy Taysom Hill as a legit franchise QB. I just don't. I've seen nothing to indicate that. Yeah, a few highlight reel trick plays with him doesn't equip Drew Brees for me. I think it's going to be a serious step down. Yeah, you're going to get some more mobility out of it. Yeah, sure. You have Michael Thomas to throw to, so you can't be that bad. But I just see him being like a faster, less accurate Alex Smith. I don't know. This is the guy who was a quarterback, couldn't even make the Packers roster. He's a trick play guy. That's what he is. I wouldn't be surprised if this year, even if Drew Brees does retire, the Saints sign some veteran QB to a 1-year deal so they can spend a whole year focusing on Taysom Hill at quarterback. Because at the end of the day, that's what you're going to need to do. And yeah, he has the build for a quarterback, but I just don't see it. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He has an okay arm, but he doesn't have the strongest arm. And he's shown nothing to me that he can throw, that he can make reads simpler than trick plays and throw in contested coverage. I just don't see it. Let's talk about the QB market. So Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, Jameis Winston, Teddy Bridgewater. There's a lot of guys hitting the free agent market at quarterback. Could even be more. Maybe Andy Dalton, maybe Derek Carr type things, stuff like that. So where do these guys go? I think Phillip Rivers to Tampa Bay is probably a kind of a done deal once free agency, once the clock starts. Phil, I think his family's moving to Florida. Bruce Arians likes veteran quarterbacks. It is weird that you're replacing Jameis Winston with an older and less mobile Jameis Winston. But again, Arians loves him some veteran quarterbacks. And Phillip Rivers is basically Carson Palmer at this point. So that makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if he even brings back David Johnson down to Tampa Bay once the Cardinals end up releasing him. What a waste, Arizona. What a waste. Teddy Bridgewater, I think his best fits are two places. Or one is the Colts. I don't know how happy the Colts fan base would be if you replace Jacoby Brissett with Teddy Bridgewater, because it's almost more the same. I think Bridgewater has a higher ceiling than Brissett, but I understand why Colts fans would maybe just prefer draft a QB, especially with this QB class. If you take like a Jordan Love or a Jake Fromm, I get that. But I think Bridgewater I think people forget how young Bridgewater's like 24. People forget how young he is. The other thing, his other good fit is New England. I think if Brady leaves, I think Teddy Bridgewater is the best quarterback. I think New England should absolutely right after go for Teddy Bridgewater. He does everything you want in a Josh McDaniels system. Not going to turn the ball over a lot. He's going to make short, timely passes. He's going to keep you in games. That's all you want out of the Josh McDaniels offense in New England. Jameis Winston, this one's a wild card. I don't know if people still view him as a starter. I could see Vegas. I could see that being someone John Gruden wants to take on, oddly enough. To be honest, I could even see Dallas if they lose Dak. Maybe the Chargers. But again, nothing like replacing Phillip Rivers with Phillip Rivers. If they don't get Brady, I could see that being the case. There's also Marcus Mariota. Some people have said the Patriots. I don't think that's a good fit. Not really a great fit for me. Heck, maybe honestly a backup for a team like honestly, I could see Mariota going to like New Orleans as that veteran QB. They want to keep in front of Taysom Hill for like a year. Or maybe even Carolina if they trade Cam Newton. Nothing like replacing Cam Newton with Cam Newton. So, it's just a lot of questions with the quarterback market. It should be really interesting to watch and digest. I wanted to get into coaching changes, but really there aren't that many to talk about. The Giants hired a Patriots position coach who nobody really knew about. I didn't even know who he was. I had to look him up. And they also hire offensive coordinator Jason Garrett. That's hilarious in my opinion. And quarterback, wide receiver coach, offensive assistant. I forget what his official job title is, but Freddie Kitchens. It's an interesting coaching staff you're putting together, gentlemen. It really is. Not as many coaching changes as a lot of people theorized going into this offseason. I mean, Mike McCarthy to Dallas. Okay. I mean, you looked at Marvin Lewis and Mike McCarthy. Good job. You picked the one that doesn't entirely suck. Other than that, not really much in terms of the coaching changes. Again, I expected a lot more. I think less positions were open than people expected. I think that's why there was less coaching changes. A lot of teams decided to stick with the guys they already had. The last two talking points are: is Mahomes is this the start of a Chiefs dynasty? I'd give it until they actually have to pay Mahomes, because then your cap space is going to be so messed up that good luck fielding a competitive team around him. He's going to become Aaron Rodgers with a bunch of bootleg receivers. But this man might get $300 million, and quite honestly, if he keeps doing this, God forbid, barring a major injury, he deserves it. I would put off paying him at least until the end of next season. But, Mahomes is the type of guy who always gives you a chance to win a Super Bowl. Honestly, I don't know if they should. I don't think they should have won it this year. San Fran kind of shot themselves in the foot. Kyle Shanahan, you did it again. Really think, everybody wants to talk about dynasties. They just don't happen that much. That's why they're so special when they happen. They don't happen that much. And it's so hard to start a dynasty, especially in a league like football, where teams turn around so fast. So I'm going to say no, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to be contenders for the next like 5 to 6 years. Don't get me wrong with that. And yes, I think the Patriots dynasty is officially over if Brady leaves. So we're just going to quickly talk into draft talk. We're moving into the offseason. It should be a really interesting offseason. We're going to see a lot of turnover, a lot of quarterbacks in this draft class, so a lot of teams are going to be moving towards that. So it should be really interesting to watch. In the future, I'll probably come out with some draft grades for some certain positions. But I mean, these segments are already going to be long today, so I'm not going to go into that today. And, more information will come in time. I'm not going to release any mock drafts until after the combine going forward. But just for pertinent information, this is a heavy offensive draft class, very heavy on quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. So those of you who are fans of skill positions and flashy draft picks, you're going to enjoy this one. So that'll wrap up this football segment here on the Talk with AVC. So I guess a lot of people are wondering, well, do we have a third segment now? Well, actually, yes, we're going to, and I'll explain more about that segment when we get to it. It's going to be kind of more of a big sport talking point thing. Again, I'll explain when we get to it. But thank you all very much for watching this segment. Again, I apologize for my voice. Like I said, I'm a little under the weather. But again, thank you very much for watching this football segment of the Talk with AVC, and I hope to see you in the next one. Yeah.